India News, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Donald Trump picks Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy to lead the Department of Government Efficiency. Washington says Israel not violating US law on aid to Gaza, signals it will not limit arms transfers. Saudi Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud arrives in India to meet Indian counterpart S. Jaishankar today. Red alert for global climate. CO2 emissions set to total 41.6 billion metric tons in 2024, up from 40.6 billion tons last year. Well, on to the details this hour. US President-elect Donald Trump named more of his incoming team on Tuesday, including seasoned figures and hardliners. His administration is taking shape one name at a time. Donald Trump announced his former Director of National Intelligence, John Ratcliffe, to lead the Central Intelligence Agency. Ratcliffe, a close ally of Trump, served as Director of National Intelligence at the end of his first term. Ratcliffe was confirmed as the nation's top spy in May 2020, 8 months before Trump left office. While Trump has also said he will nominate Fox News Channel host Pete Hegseth to be Secretary of Defense. Hegseth is an Army National Guard veteran and, according to his website, served in Afghanistan, Iraq and Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Trump also announced Mike Huckabee as U.S. ambassador to Israel under his incoming administration, putting a stalwart supporter of that country's government in a key role. And in the latest, U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has said that he will nominate South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to be the Homeland Security Secretary. Also, Elon Musk and former Republican presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy will lead the Department of Government Efficiency. Well, earlier on Monday, the U.S. President-elect chose Susie Wiles and Ton Homan as part of his administration, Ellis Stefanik as his envoy to the UN, and Lee Zeldin as the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Reports also suggested that he had zeroed in on Marco Rubio as Secretary of State and Mike Waltz as NSA. This report is a fact box of who's who and who's likely to get what.
US President-elect Donald Trump has begun choosing his cabinet and other high-ranking administration officials. Among the early picks and top contenders for some of the key posts overseeing defense, intelligence, diplomacy, trade, immigration, and economic policymaking. Wiles, one of his two campaign managers, will be his White House chief of staff. Supporters hope she will instill a sense of order and discipline that was apparently lacking during Trump's first term. The former acting director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement, Tom Homan, will be in charge of the country's border. Trump said Homan will be in charge of the nation's border, including but not limited to the southern border, the northern border, all maritime and aviation security, including the deportation of immigrants in the U.S. illegally. Trump announced on Monday that Elise Stefanik, a Republican congresswoman and staunch supporter, would be his ambassador to the United Nations. The 40-year-old representative from New York State became a key Republican when she was elected to the White House, replacing Liz Cheney, who was ousted for criticizing Trump's claims of election fraud. Trump also announced on Monday that former Congressman Lee Zeldin would be his administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Zeldin has accepted the role. Zeldin, who is 44, is a staunch Trump ally and hails from New York. He will play a key role in implementing Trump's stated position on overhauling U.S. energy policy to maximize record-high oil and gas production by rolling back regulations. Apart from these appointments, there are several names doing the rounds as potential contenders for key posts. Some major news networks have reported so far. Marco Rubio has been tapped for Secretary of State. Rubio is a U.S. Senator from Florida and is also a top Secretary of State contender. His policies closely align with those of Trump. He has long been involved in foreign affairs in the Senate and is an important Latino voice.
Because together with Donald Trump, we are going to make America not just great, but greater than it has ever been before.
It has also been reported that Mike Waltz has been picked as the National Security Advisor. A former Marine, Waltz has established himself as one of the foremost China hawks. Among the various China-related bills he has co-sponsored are measures designed to lessen U.S. reliance on critical minerals mined in China. There are 4 contenders for the post of Treasury Secretary. Scott Bessent is a long-time hedge fund investor who taught at Yale University for several years. John Paulson is a billionaire hedge fund manager and a major Trump donor. He had told associates that he would be interested in the job. He is a long-time proponent of tax cuts and deregulation. Larry Kudlow served as the director of the National Economic Council. Now, he's an outsider shot because publicly he and Trump advocate the same tax policies. Robert Lighthizer had served as U.S. Trade Representative for most of the Trump's first term and is certain to be invited back for either of the top jobs at the Treasury or the Department of Commerce. Linda McMahon, a former Small Business Administration Director, is seen as the frontrunner to lead Trump's Department of Commerce. McMahon is the co-founder and former CEO of the professional wrestling franchise WWE. Mike Lee, a U.S. Senator from Utah, is widely seen as another top candidate for Attorney General. Like Vance, he was an initial skeptic but later became an unwavering ally, and he's now seen as an intellectual hero among Trump's supporters. Supporters also keenly watching to see what roles Trump would assign to key faces on the campaign: Viveka Ramaswamy, Tulsi Gabbard, Robert Kennedy Jr., and Elon Musk, called in social media circles as the Avengers. Bureau Report, DD India.
Well, the judge overseeing U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's criminal hush money case has put off ruling on whether his conviction should be thrown out on immunity grounds, enabling prosecutors to weigh next steps following his election victory. Justice Juan Merchan was due to rule on Tuesday on Trump's argument that the U.S. Supreme Court's decision in July that presidents are immune from prosecution involving their official acts meant the New York State case should be dismissed. Instead, Merchan granted a request by Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg's office to have until November 19th to consider how to approach the case in light of Trump's looming inauguration in January 2025. Email correspondence made public on Tuesday showed. Trump's scheduled November 26 sentencing is now widely expected to be postponed. Meanwhile, Trump's presidential rival and U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris returned to the White House on Tuesday after running a 107-day hectic campaign that raised more than $1 billion after President Biden stepped aside July 21st due to concern about his mental acuity. She thanked them all. Amid a thunderous cheer and crowd lined on the sides of the road, hundreds of White House staffers greeted Vice President Kamala Harris with chants of MVP Tuesday as she returned to the executive complex for the first time since losing last week's presidential election to Donald Trump. The widely known acronym for Most Valuable Player was apparently repurposed by Democratic loyalists to pay tribute to the 60-year-old's honorary title as Madam Vice President. And Indonesian President Prabowo Subianto met with U.S. President Joe Biden at the White House, pledging strong cooperation with the U.S. The two leaders discussed critical issues including climate change, West Asia conflict, and South China Sea tensions. President Prabowo also spoke to U.S. President-elect Donald Trump by phone, offering personal congratulations and expressing willingness to meet him in person. Trump, in response, praised Prabowo's leadership and American training.
I will work very hard to strengthen Indonesian-United States relationship, and I would like to work towards this end, that we have a strong cooperation. Once again, President Biden, thank you very much for
thank you. Look forward to our discussion.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, the United States on Tuesday banned all civilian flights to Haiti for a month, a day after 3 jetliners departing from its capital Port-au-Prince were hit by gunfire. The U.S. Federal Aviation Administration's move came after a Spirit Airlines jetliner arriving from Florida in Port-au-Prince was hit by gunfire and had to reroute to the Dominican Republic. A flight attendant suffered minor injuries, and images posted online appeared to show several bullet holes inside the plane. Two planes that left the Haitian capital on Monday were also hit. Prime Minister Alex Didier Aimé was sworn in Monday, replacing outgoing Premier Gary Connell, who was appointed in May. The United States on Tuesday called on Haiti's leaders to put personal interest aside and concentrate on getting the country back on its feet. And the United States has said that Israel was not violating U.S. law and allowing assistance into Gaza, but has called for further progress. The remarks came a month after Washington warned Israel of potential halt to military support. In a letter, the Biden government had voiced concerns over the humanitarian situation in Gaza, setting a deadline of November 13th to comply with U.S. law on permitting humanitarian assistance.
We are constantly assessing and evaluating, and if we do not see consistent progress, if we do not see the results on the ground, then we will, of course, make appropriate assessments about their compliance with international law and compliance with U.S. law, and that'll continue to be the case. The overall humanitarian situation in Gaza continues to remain unsatisfactory, but in the context of the letter, it's not about whether we find something satisfactory or not. It's that what are the actions that we're seeing? These actions that we have seen, we think that these are steps in the right direction. We want to see more steps. We want to see these steps sustained over a significant period of time.
Well, in another development, Israel has claimed to dismantle Hezbollah's weapons and missile facilities, which it said were located under Beirut's southern suburbs of Dahieh. Israeli army published a video showing aerial footage of strikes on various buildings. The military said it operates according to precise intelligence. This followed an Israeli military warning to locals to evacuate the area ahead of an airstrike against Hezbollah assets. Recently, Israel has intensified airstrikes on Lebanon's south and on Beirut, while Hezbollah has ramped up daily rocket and drone attacks against Israel. And in a video message to Iranians, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said that Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei's government featured its own citizens more than Israel, urging them to imagine a free future.
The world has seen but a fraction of our power. Yet there is one thing Khamenei's regime fears more than Israel. You know what it is? It's you, the people of Iran. That's why they spend so much time and money trying to crush your hopes and curb your dreams. Well, I say to you this: don't let your dreams die. I hear your whispers. Women, life, freedom. Zan, Zandagi, Azadi. Don't lose hope. And know that Israel and others in the free world stand with you.
Well, the United States has carried out strikes against Iranian-aligned targets in Syria. In a statement, the military said that the strikes were in response to recent attack on U.S. personnel at patrol base Shadabi. There was, however, no damage to U.S. facilities and no injuries to U.S. or partner forces during the attack. The U.S. said these strikes will degrade Iranian-backed groups' ability to plan and launch future attacks on the country. And in some other news from Iran, UN atomic watchdog chief Rafael Grossi arrives in Tehran for crunch talks over its nuclear program on Wednesday. The International Atomic Energy Agency head has for months sought progress with Iran on issues including a push for more monitoring cooperation at nuclear sites and an explanation of uranium traces found at undeclared sites. Iran has stepped up nuclear activity since 2019 after Trump, during his first term, abandoned a 2015 deal Iran had reached with world powers, under which it curbed enrichment and restored tough U.S. sanctions on the Islamic Republic. Iran's work on enrichment has been seen by the West as a disguised effort to develop nuclear weapons capability. And still to come on DD India News Hour. First phase of Jharkhand Assembly polls underway. Amidst political upheaval, Germany to hold snap elections soon after the collapse of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's three-party coalition. And deadly wildfires spread in New York, New Jersey, health warnings issued in several areas.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Lipakshi Khurana, and moving on. In India, voting is underway in the eastern state of Jharkhand across 43 constituencies. Till 9 a.m., average 13% votes have been polled, while at some polling booths it saw 15% turnout. 13.7 million voters are eligible to exercise their right to vote at 15,344 polling booths. Polling will continue by 5 p.m. local time, while polling will be until 4 p.m. IST at 950 sensitive booths spread over 31 constituencies. Well, more than 200 security companies are also on duty to ensure a smooth voting process. The second phase of polling will be held on the 20th of November, while votes will be counted on the 23rd of November. Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi urged the voters to exercise their franchise and strengthen the festival of democracy. And in Sri Lanka, preparations for the 14th November parliamentary elections are underway as the island nation prepares to vote to elect 225 members to the parliament. Polling will be held on Thursday between 7 a.m. and 4 p.m. local time at over 13,400 polling stations. Counting of votes will begin at 4:15 p.m. with postal ballots first and ballot boxes after they are shifted to the counting centers. Moving on, in a major political shake-up, Germany is set to hold snap elections too on February 23rd after the collapse of Chancellor Olaf Scholz's three-party coalition last week. The country's two biggest parties agreed on the early timetable, which will see centre-left leader Scholz seek a vote of confidence on 16th of December. The election date represents a compromise between the Conservative opposition, which pushed for a January vote to avoid leaving Germany without clear leadership. Scholz is expected to lose the vote of confidence, after which President Frank-Walter Steinmeier will have 21 days to dissolve the Bundestag or lower house of parliament. Elections would have to be held within the next 60 days. German President Frank-Walter Steinmeier has approved the timeline for early elections agreed by Germany's main parties, saying the plan to hold the vote is realistic. Also, the head of state urged all mainstream parties to cooperate responsibly until then. In Dakar, activists from Senegal's ruling PASTEF party rallied ahead of Sunday's legislative elections. Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko urged peace despite having previously called for retribution after opposition attacks on PASTEF supporters. Fellow supporter Mohamed Diom demanded justice, reflecting widespread frustration. This election comes after President Bassirou Diomaye Faye dissolved the opposition-led parliament in September, with the PASTEF party now aiming to secure a majority. Their platform focuses on social justice, economic reform, and anti-corruption efforts. Well, these elections could shift the political landscape in Senegal as voters weigh in on these pivotal promises. And moving on, Massachusetts Air National Guard member Jack Teixeira was sentenced to 15 years in prison after pleading guilty to leaking highly classified military documents. The 22-year-old's actions, described by prosecutors as one of the most significant breaches of the Espionage Act, involved sharing sensitive national defense details, including intelligence on Russia-Ukraine war, with a group on Discord. Despite warnings from superiors, Teixeira, a low-ranking cyber defense specialist, repeatedly accessed and posted information on global security, defying orders. Prosecutors revealed he bragged about access to intelligence on Israel, Syria and China. His defense argued Teixeira was an isolated young man who acted out of curiosity, not malice. Nevertheless, Judge Indira Talwani handed down the substantial sentence on Tuesday.
Today, Jack Teixeira was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for violating the oath every one of us in public service takes to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Jack Teixeira abused his position of trust, and he exploited his top-secret clearance to access hundreds of classified top-secret information and then share them on Discord, a social media gaming platform that reaches over 150 million people across the globe.
Well, Peruvian President Dina Boluarte and Sultan of Brunei Hassan al-Bolkiah hold a bilateral meeting in Lima ahead of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit. Sultan of Brunei was also awarded the Grand Collar of the Order of the Sun of Peru at the government palace during a state visit. During their meeting, the two leaders discussed topics such as economic and energy cooperation, as well as efforts to combat climate change with the aim of strengthening bilateral relations. Peru is hosting APEC for the third time after the 2008 and 2016 editions. Leaders and representatives of the APEC 21 member economies and other commercial guests will meet in the capital from 14th to 16th of November. And in the latest warning from COP29 summit in Baku, global CO2 emissions are set to hit record high in 2024. This will include emissions from burning fossil fuels other than industrial activities from low-tech devices. The Global Carbon Budget Report published during the UN's COP29 climate summit in Azerbaijan said global CO2 emissions are set to total 41.6 billion metric tons in 2024, up from 40.6 billion tons last year. Well, the bulk of these emissions are from burning coal, oil and gas. Those emissions were total 37.4 billion tons in 2024, up by 0.8% in 2023, the report said. The rest are from land use, a category that includes deforestation and forest fires. The report by more than 80 institutions was led by the University of Exeter in Britain. Such emissions increase will pull the world further off course from averting more destructive climate extremes, scientists said on Wednesday. And flooded areas near the eastern city of Valencia were rushing on Tuesday to clear drainage systems while they prepare for another potential powerful storm. The National Weather Service issued an orange alert for strong or torrential rains 2 weeks after the worst floods in Spain that killed over 200 people. Valencia's emergency committee issued a special warning to municipalities and organizations requesting them to adopt preventive measures, including closing schools. The committee also recommended people to work remotely and avoid non-essential travel and follow emergency service updates. The weather alert includes much of the Mediterranean coast of Catalonia, Valencia and Andalusia and Balearic Islands. Well, fire crews in the United States are working to contain large blazes in the northeastern states of New York and New Jersey, where heavy smoke-filled air has prompted health warnings in several areas. The Jennings Creek wildfire has already torched some 2,023 hectares across the two states, killed a New York Park employee and threatened dozens of structures. Officials said containment efforts are evenly divided between New York and New Jersey, noting that overnight rainfall provided a much-needed break for firefighting crews. Meanwhile, in California, gusty winds threatened to intensify a major wildfire, adding to the challenges for the firefighters. And a major eruption took place at the Cacajol mud volcano, also known as El Alberedo, in Colombia on Monday, producing a very large fireball and injuring 8 people. Drone footage showed the damage due to the eruption. The volcano has impacted several communities, with 109 families living near the volcano and along nearby roads reporting damage to homes. As part of the immediate response, officials have begun evacuating 16 families, including 30 children, from impacted areas to schools in Manta Gorda and Santiago de Oradaba. In Los Mangos, authorities have also temporarily relocated 35 children to a local school to ensure their safety. And British author Samantha Harvey has won the 2024 Booker Prize, one of literature's highest honours, for her novel Orbital. The story follows a tense 24 hours for 6 astronauts from around the world aboard the International Space Station, exploring themes of loss, desire and the climate crisis. Harvey's work stood out to judges, who unanimously awarded her the prize for its unique perspective and emotional depth. Along with the award, she received the substantial cash prize, which she plans to use for a new bicycle and a trip to Japan, a country close to her heart after having lived there. This win cements Harvey's place among English literature's most acclaimed voices. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. 24-year-old Irish student Olivia Humphreys was awarded on the International James Dyson Award 2024 for her device Athena, a prototype for a portable chemotherapy scalp cooling device to help cancer sufferers keep their hair. The innovative concept was motivated by Humphreys' mother's experience with chemotherapy and scalp cooling treatment. The device is utilizing low-cost thermoelectric components to cool water that circulates around the scalp, and it's lightweight as well as portable. Sao Paulo Zoo unveiled a new exhibit site for the endangered Spix's macaws, also known as the little blue macaw. The sanctuary aims to aid the recovery and eventual reintroduction into the wild. There are about 330 birds of Spix's macaws in the world, 85 of which are in Brazil, 27 in Sao Paulo. The Spix's macaw is listed as a critically endangered species in Brazil. An immersive exhibition looking at the history of catwalk presentations from early 20th couture salons to modern-day fashion shows opens in London this week. Vogue Inventing the Runway features archive footage over the decades as well as narration from designers. The exhibition opens on Wednesday until April 26th. Eight art conservators have begun a painstaking process to remove a layer of varnish from Rembrandt's giant night watch masterpiece on Tuesday to reveal its original depth and color at the National Rijksmuseum Gallery in Amsterdam. In the first 5-year stage of work, the canvas was restretched. In the next stage, a solvent-soaked tissue was applied to the paint surface to dissolve the varnish, revealing a removal of the yellowish tint. In Bangladesh, press freedom faces a critical challenge as the Press Information Department has revoked the accreditation of 167 journalists, sparking alarm across the media landscape. The Editors' Council, led by President Mahfouz Anam, warned that targeting professional journalists without specific evidence of wrongdoing undermines fundamental freedoms and could lead to a tightly controlled media environment reminiscent of past authoritarian eras. And still to come on DD India News Hour. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi to travel to Nigeria, Brazil and Guyana from 16th to 21st of November will attend Rio G20 summit on 18th and 19th November. India displays finest fabrics and textile expertise at the 18th International Apparel and Textile Fair in Dubai. And the 5th edition of military exercise between the militaries of India and Vietnam, Winbats 24, is underway at Ambala. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepakshi Khurana. Time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Donald Trump picks Elon Musk, Vivek Ramaswamy to lead the Department of Government Efficiency, Pete Hegseth to be Secretary of Defense, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem to be the Homeland Security Secretary. Washington says Israel not violating U.S. law on aid to Gaza, signaling it will not limit arms transfers. Saudi Foreign Minister Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud arrives in India to meet Indian counterpart S. Jaishankar today. Red alert for global climate. CO2 emissions set to total 41.6 billion metric tons in 2024, up from 40.6 billion tons last year. Well, moving on, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be visiting Nigeria, Brazil and Guyana from 16th to 21st of November 2024. Prime Minister will visit Nigeria from 16th to 17th November 2024. This will be the first visit by Prime Minister of India to Nigeria in 17 years. During the visit, Prime Minister will hold talks to review the strategic partnership between India and Nigeria and discuss further avenues to enhance the bilateral relationship. He'll also address a gathering of the Indian community in Nigeria. Prime Minister will also travel to Rio de Janeiro during 18 to 19 November 2024 to attend the G20 summit. India is part of the G20 Troika along with Brazil and South Africa and has been actively contributing to the ongoing G20 summit discussions. During the summit, Prime Minister will put forward India's positions on various issues of global importance and build on the outcomes from the G20 New Delhi Leaders Declaration and Voice of the Global South summits, which were hosted by India in the past 2 years. Prime Minister will also visit Guyana from 19th to 21st of November 2024. This visit to Guyana will be the first by an Indian Prime Minister since 1968. During the visit, Prime Minister will hold discussions with President Ali, meet other senior leaders of Guyana and address the Parliament of Guyana and address a gathering of the Indian diaspora. In Georgetown, Guyana, Prime Minister will also participate in the second CARICOM India Summit and hold meetings with leaders of CARICOM member countries to further enhance India's long-standing friendship with the region. And Saudi Arabia's Foreign Minister Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud will hold talks with External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Wednesday. During the visit, he will co-chair the second meeting of the Political, Security, Social and Cultural Committee of the India-Saudi Arabia Strategic Partnership Council. This visit will provide further impetus to the multifaceted India-Saudi bilateral ties. The SPC was established in 2019 following Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Saudi Arabia in October of that year. Saudi Foreign Minister arrived on Tuesday in New Delhi for a 2-day official visit to India. Also on India visit will be U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Kurt Campbell, who will be attending the inaugural U.S.-India Indian Ocean Dialogue. At the dialogue, he will join Principal Deputy National Security Advisor John Feiner and senior Indian officials to discuss measures to promote security and prosperity throughout the Indo-Pacific region. While in New Delhi, he will also participate in the Critical and Emergency Technologies or ICET intersessional to further expand cooperation between the United States and India on technological innovation and production. Well, India's Defence Research and Development Organisation conducted the maiden flight test of long-range land attack cruise missile on Tuesday. Missile with a range of 1,000 km was test-fired from a mobile articulated launcher at the Integrated Test Range in Chandipur, Odisha. According to a statement from the Ministry of Defence, the LRLACM demonstrated precise waypoint navigation, performing complex maneuvers at varied altitudes and speeds. It added that test proved the capability of its advanced avionics and software systems. The missile is designed for versatility, capable of being launched from both land-based platforms and naval vessels. It utilizes a universal vertical launch module, which is also compatible with the BrahMos missile system, thereby enhancing its operational flexibility. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has congratulated DRDO Armed Forces and industry on the successful maiden flight test of LRLACM. He said that the test paves the way for further indigenous cruise missile development programs. Well, the fifth edition of military exercise between the militaries of India and Vietnam, Winbex 24, is currently underway at Ambala. The troops of Indian Army and Vietnam People's Army are being trained on employment and deployment of engineer company and a medical team in UN mission. With enhanced scope of the exercise in this edition, the Air Force personnel from both sides interacted and shared best practices on employment of air assets in the rehabilitation efforts at UN mission. The contingent witnessed employment of Advanced Light Helicopter or ALH and Chinook in various engineer support tasks. Well, India's patents and industrial design fillings for intellectual property rights doubled between 2018 and 2023, taking the country to the 6th rank according to the latest World Intellectual Property Organization's annual report. For the first time, India was included in the top 10 countries of the world for three main intellectual property rights: patents, industrial design applications, and trademark applications. The patent filing in India has shown the fifth consecutive year of the double-digit growth rate. According to the WIPO report, the number of patents filed in India in 2023 was 64,480. The country's growth rate in patent filing was 15.7% compared to 2022. The report states that more than 35 lakh patents were filed worldwide in 2023, and this was the fourth successive year that global patents filing was shown positive growth. And India is showcasing its finest weaves at the 18th International Apparel and Textile Fair in Dubai, presenting a wide array of high-quality fabrics and unmatched textile expertise. With a strong delegation of manufacturers, designers and artisans, the country highlighted its rich heritage and modern capabilities in textile production. India's textile industry holds immense economic significance, contributing 2% to the country's GDP and making it the third largest textile exporter globally. The sector is a major employer with over 45 million people in the workforce, largely powered by women. The fair serves as a hub for trend-setting and sourcing excellence, shaping the style landscape of the Gulf region. The biannual three-day fair will conclude on the 14th of November.
The International Apparels and Textile Fair, Dubai, which is a very good platform for the MSME companies based out of India, because this is giving a platform to get new customers and a base for textile exports. We are seeing a very good opportunity that a lot of buyers are coming from all over the region, from Eastern Europe, Russia and Africa. So there's a boost that we are able to, that our companies like us are able to cater to these new markets which are very nascent and a huge opportunity is awaiting for the factories like us, which are in MSME, to get new orders, new market, and opportunity, and surely new experience.
And some news and weather now. A dense fog blanketed national capital Delhi and NCR for the first time this season on Wednesday, dipping visibility to zero at the Delhi airport, even as calm winds prevailed across the region. The weather has significantly changed with respect to intensification of fog conditions in the morning, and it has been dense to very dense fog prevailing over the city. In terms of temperature, minimum temperature in last 24 hours is 17 degrees Celsius today, while it stood at 17.9 degrees Celsius Tuesday morning, recording a fall of 0.9 degrees Celsius. And for more on the weather, we have Dibyendu Mondal joining us for more. Well, Dibyendu, after season's first snowfall in Kashmir 2 days back, now Delhi is also showing decrease in temperature with season's first fog experienced today morning by the Delhiites. What's the situation like?
Well, Lipakshi, that's right. Delhi and the NCR region, and not just Delhi, I would say the entire North India is experiencing fog situation since today morning. And for Delhi NCR, of course, this is the season's first fog where people woke up to, a heavy fog being blanketed around the city and the adjoining areas, dropping visibility level to almost zero in the early hours of the morning, giving a sense that the winter is setting in the national capital region, and people of Delhi do look forward to such mornings in this part of the year, because I have been in Delhi for very long, and people do enjoy the winters in Delhi. And this is the fog is something that although it disrupts life and traffic, it does make people in Delhi feel happy that yes, winters have come in the national capital region. And today's fog, the first fog of the season, does give us a sense that yes, winter is setting in the national capital region, and the temperatures from here on is expected to drop further, given the fact that, as you rightly said, there has been snowfall in the upper reaches in the Himalayas, which has a direct impact in the northern plains of northern India.
All right.
Not just in Delhi, but also in the adjoining areas of Haryana, Punjab, Uttar Pradesh is expected to see more fog in the coming days.
All right, the winters are surely setting in. But if we talk about the air and rail traffic, what's the situation there?
Well, of course, as I said, with the heavy and dense fog in the national capital region, it comes with its whammies, which includes the disruption of both rail and air traffic. And today morning, when the visibility dropped to almost zero, we have seen almost approximately 10 flights were diverted, some to Jaipur and some to Lucknow airport, is what we pick up from our sources in the Delhi airports. Of course, 10 flights as of now have been diverted. But however, with the time picking up, we can see the fog clearing up and there could be no further disruption. But also in terms of the railway, there is no official notification as of yet on the number of trains that are being delayed. But of course, such fog situation do disrupt the railway network services as well. Lipakshi.
All right, Dibyendu, thank you so much for all those details. And now let's take a look at other stories making news today. In a significant milestone for India's defense sector, the Indian Army has made substantial progress in the phased induction of Project Akash Teer, an advanced air defense system aimed at modernizing India's defense framework. The initiative is designed to create a responsive and resilient air defense network prepared to meet emerging aerial threats with agility and precision. In a landmark decision, India's Home Ministry has approved a Central Industrial Security Forces first ever all-women battalion promoting gender equality. Preparations have been started for the early recruitment, training and selection of a location for the headquarters of the new battalion. The decision will encourage aspiring women to join CISF's mission to serve the nation and safeguard national strategic assets. The customs officers at New Delhi's IGI airport arrested a man for smuggling of narcotic substance suspected to be heroin from Bangkok via Kuala Lumpur. During baggage search, 7.321 kg of the suspected narcotics packed in 7 green polythene packets was found in his trolley bag. Diagnostic test confirmed the substance suspected to contain heroin with an estimated value of 29.28 crore rupees. Further investigation is under progress. And still to come on DD India News Hour. The value of world's biggest cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, hits record high after Republicans' victory. India worry about depth while South Africa look to break Spain's stranglehold at the third T20. And in Vietnam, Khaima 5-tone musical ensemble performance held in Sok Trong province.
This week on Defense Dynamics, we will talk about Indian Navy's growing power as India's President Draupadi Murmu reviews naval preparedness from INS Vikrant, India's first indigenous aircraft carrier. We will tell you why India's long-range anti-ship ballistic missile will prove to be a game-changer in geopolitics of the Indian Ocean. Lastly in the show, we will bring to you why the Russian Tu-160M bomber could play a pivotal role in strategic dominance during any conflict. Watch Defense Dynamics every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. IST only on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lipakshi Kuran. Around to some business news now. The price of Bitcoin has neared $90,000 for the first time ever after Donald Trump's decisive victory in the U.S. election last week. It comes as the Republicans are edging closer to overall control of Congress after having already secured the presidency and a majority in the Senate. The value of the world's biggest cryptocurrency has now risen by more than 80% this year. Other cryptocurrencies, including Dogecoin, are also making gains, which has been promoted by Trump supporter Elon Musk. In the run-up to the election, Trump said he would create a strategic Bitcoin stockpile and appoint digital asset-friendly financial regulators, spurring expectations that he would strip back regulations on the crypto industry. Meanwhile, major Wall Street indexes closed lower on Tuesday as investors booked some profits from a post-election rally and turned cautious ahead of U.S. economic data due this week. The three major indexes had rallied to record highs since the November 5th U.S. election as investors bet on a boost to equities from Trump's proposed tax cuts and the prospect of easier regulatory policies. But investor enthusiasm was dampened on Tuesday. European shares lost 2% as European Central Bank policymakers warned that increased tariffs from Trump would hamper global growth. The S&P 500 lost 0.29%, while the Nasdaq Composite lost 0.09%. The Dow Jones Industrial Average fell 0.86%. Well, the Asian stocks fell to the lowest level in almost 2 months before U.S. inflation data that may further sap confidence in the pace of Federal Reserve interest rate cuts. Equity benchmarks in Australia and South Korea led the declines during the session opening. The Nikkei was 0.15% lower, while the Kospi was down 0.47%. And in India, the benchmark equity indices opened lower on Wednesday amid weak global cues. The BSE Sensex opened down 167 points at 78,507.87, while Nifty 50 was at 23,820, down 62 points. In the broader markets, meanwhile, Nifty Mid Cap 100 was down 0.38% and the Nifty Small Cap 100 was down 0.66%. Well, Argentina's inflation rate has dipped below 200% for the first time in nearly a year, hitting 193%, a milestone credited to President Javier Milei's intense austerity measures. According to INDEC, monthly inflation in October eased to 2.7%, its lowest since 2021, down from 3.5% in September, while rent and utilities drove price increases at 5.4%. Essentials like food and transport saw a modest 1.2% rise. However, the cost of this progress is high. Sweeping cuts in public spending, reduced subsidies and public sector layoffs have pushed more than half of Argentines into poverty, leaving many struggling to stretch their incomes. Well, you're watching TD India News. Our time now for some sports news. India and South Africa are set to clash in the third T20 International on Wednesday at Super Sport Park with the series at 1-1. India's batting has been inconsistent, especially from the openers and senior players. The team is considering changes to the batting order. The bowling, particularly from Varun Chakravarti and Ravi Bishnoi, has been impressive. South Africa's batting also needs improvement from their senior players. The match is expected to be a close contest. Indian women's hockey team edged past South Korea 3-2 in a thriller at the Women's Asian Champions Trophy in Rajgir, Bihar. The home team dominated the proceedings in the first 30 minutes and went up 2-0 thanks to goals from Sangeeta and Deepika. Korea bounced back in the third quarter, making it a 2-2. In the dying moments with less than 3 minutes to go, India won a stroke after a foul on Navneet and Deepika scored the winning goal from the spot. Deepika, for her stunning performance, was adjudged player of the match. And star shuttlers PV Sindhu and Lakshya Sen will be eager to regain their respective form as they lead the Indian challenge in the opening matches of Kumamoto Masters Japan Super 500 tournament on Wednesday. Both players have struggled to find their best form following disappointing performances at the Paris Olympics. While Sindhu reached the quarterfinals at the Denmark Open Super 750, Lakshya Sen suffered early exits at both the Arctic Open Super 500 and Denmark Open. Both the players have struggled to close out deciders after staying competitive in their matches. Despite these setbacks, Sindhu has expressed confidence in her preparations, having worked closely with the new coaches Anup Sridhar and Korean legend Lee Seon-tu. Meanwhile, Lakshya Sen will open against Malaysia's Leong Jun Hao with the potential showdown against 8th seed Anthony Ginting of Indonesia in the next round. An Italian top seed Jannik Sinner moved closer to the ATP Tour final semi-final with a 6-4, 6-4 victory over American Taylor Fritz in Turin. The world number one fought off a strong challenge, hitting 22 winners to Fritz 19, securing his second win in front of a supportive home crowd. Sinner, who has also won the 2024 Australian Open, leads his group after claiming his 67th win of the season. Earlier, Daniil Medvedev beat Alex de Minaur 6-2, 6-4, showing a more composed performance than in the opening match loss to Fritz. In doubles, Britain's Henry Patton and Harry Heliobara advanced to the semi-finals after a second consecutive win. And Manchester City maintained their perfect start in the Women's Champions League with a 2-0 victory over Hammarby. After a tough first half, Laura Blind-Brown broke the deadlock shortly after the break. Auba Fugino sealed the win with the diving header in the final 10 minutes. Despite a strong showing from Hammarby, City's defence held firm with goalkeeper Ayaka Yamashita making a crucial save to deny Thea Sorbo. City now lead Group D with 9 points from 3 games, 3 points ahead of Barcelona. Also, Arsenal continued their impressive form under interim manager René Selgers, defeating Juventus 4-0 in the Women's Champions League. Goals from Frida Manum, Stina Blackstenius, Mariona Caldente and Caitlin Food extended Arsenal's unbeaten run to 5 games since Selgers took over. Manum opened the scoring before half-time. Blackstenius and Caldente added to the tally and Ford capped the victory with a late tap-in. The win keeps Arsenal second in Group C, 3 points ahead of Juventus and 3 behind leaders Bayern Munich. Sledgers praised the team's progress but noted it's still early in the tournament. Arsenal will host Juventus again on November 21st. and largest ever performance of a Khmer five-tone musical ensemble was recently organized in Vietnam. The traditional music form involves 5 unique musical instruments made from different materials. The performance featured 200 artisans, musicians and performers who played 20 sets of instruments across 5 different acts to establish the record. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.